Welcome everyone, and especially the ones that already have visited us before. As you can see, we also have a very special guest actually today, but I will introduce him a bit later. So as you know, this is Next Level E-commerce, and we try to always invite an expert on a specific topic, and mainly it's always around PPC. And as you know, we also think sharing is caring, and especially with you. And we tend to also look at not per se Channable focus, but really more PPC focus so that you really get practical tips where you could do something with. But also you decide on the topic and also on the quality that we deliver. So please let us also know. And at the end, we will also ask you a question, or actually two. So what the next topic should be and what you think of the quality and also on the level, which you can basically share in the poll. And yeah, we hope that we bring you something that's very practical to implement. And I've seen the slides already from Andrew, and I promise you that it will be very, very good. But besides that, we also have some house rules, as you know of us. One is be here, because for Andrew, it's really, really early. So I think we also need to appreciate his time of being here, and he's standing strong, as you can see. But appreciating it is also being here and really listening to him. And I promise you, you will get a lot of value out of it. Besides that, we have a chat functionality that a lot of you already saw. But on the other hand, we also have a questions tab. And this is really important because if you have a question, please place it in the questions tab, because there we can upvote, which means I will pick the most upvoted questions. And because Andrew is also very generous, he also said that he will answer all the questions that we couldn't answer today, or we can't answer today, to be able to also provide that as feedback, but on a follow-up where you get the slides and the recording as well. So I think that's a nice thing. Besides that, we also have emojis, and I think you already found them. And if not, show that you find them so that we also know that you know where the emojis are. Yes, there you go. So if there is anything shocking Andrew talks about or anything nice, please let him know so we can make it interactive as possible as well. And besides that, time is precious. But on the other hand, if the quality is good, we could go a bit over time and we record everything. So I think that's good to know. Yeah, so I quickly already went over to what Next Level E-commerce is and why we actually do it, but mainly expert-led insights and exclusive access to PPC industry leaders, but mainly focusing also to give you the practical tips so that you know how to implement it. So previously we had Dario and Gianpaolo here about the future of e-commerce ads. But we also had Bob Meyer about advanced search and Ruben Runnebaum about advanced bucketing in Performance Max. So definitely, if you want to know more about that, you can also find them back on our website and then on Next Level E-commerce. But let me first introduce myself. And as you also see, Jochem is not here today, but I will tell you a bit more about that and keep it very short. So my name is Jules Stiltjes, and I'm leading the customer success team for the Benelux region here at Channable. And yeah, from my end, we see a lot happening, and we thought, hey, it's time to share also with the audience and give other people the stage to also present about their topic so that you have practical insights. Jochem is the product lead, which means he's leading the development team for the ads part, so the PPC part. But he just became a dad, so I also want to see some love for Jochem here, because he's probably watching at home, or hopefully, or not, and then he's spending his time in a precious other way. But that's he will be back next time. But today, more important, we have a top 25 PPC expert actually here on various lists. So we have someone here where you can learn from a lot. He is also the founder of savvyrevenue, an agency in the Nordics, where they mainly focus on mid to large e-commerce stores. And I do have to say they also have a lot of experience in that. But there is also something that he has in common with the previous speakers, actually, or a couple of them, because he was in Bologna speaking at AdWorld Bologna, which is the event that is from Gianpaolo. And while he was speaking, there was someone sitting in front of him, which looked very familiar, but he didn't actually know who it was. Can you tell a bit more about that and what happened there, Andrew?
Well, it's going to get awkward now because I forgot the name. But I remember there's these people you always just see on LinkedIn, and you just see the picture and you see whatever they write, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. And I was sitting in, I was presenting in Bologna, and I was like, I seen this guy look a little bit like me, blonde, very look very Nordic. I'm like, who are you? Because I've seen you before. And normally there's people that you've seen before when you give presentations. You're like, they come to the same presentations, they come to the same events. And I was like, don't know who you are, but you look very familiar. And then we said hi afterwards, and I am blanking on the name right now.
Ruben.
Ruben, that's the one.
Yes, indeed.
So I'm
Yeah.
and I heard he's been on before me.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, and he was also highly speaking about your session there. So that means that we can really also learn something from you today. But besides that, we also know, because you're already working with each other actually for quite a while, and we know that you're quite a big advocate for feed optimization. And so the question also for us, like, of course, we are a big advocate for feed optimization because that's where we come from. But yeah, why would you even care about feed optimization, Andrew?
So I used to run a very large agency in the US where we're focused on SMBs. And one of the things that happened when I sold that and started Savvy Revenue was that we only focused on e-commerce. And my biggest frustration when I started back in 17 was the feeds that were delivered from the clients. It was like it was clear back then that the feed was super important for shopping performance. And everybody I talked to was like, yeah, well, the client and their IT department delivers the feed. And I was like, that's stupid. This is a marketer's job. And it sounds ridiculous to say today that feed optimization is a marketer's job, because obviously it is, and it has been for a very, very long time. But back then it was an IT, it was a developer's job. So today we just getting the feed right is everything. And I also have a slide on this, but it's one of those things that's pay to play. Just you need to have a good feed. You can't just turn on shopping ads or PMax and then say, "Hey, this will actually work," without having a proper feed. And I'm biased a ton because I remember speaking to Product Hero at the Bologna conference, and I was like, all this feed optimization, it's not that important anymore. Like, I think everybody has pretty nice feeds. And he just looked at me like, you are a blessed child if that's the case, because a lot of people have really bad feeds. So that's why we're doing another round on some of the feed optimization tips that we've learned over the years with one of these. So I'm confident that people will love it.
Nice. That's good to hear. Yeah, actually, I've been in the US as well in our New York office. And there we also sometimes had discussions with agencies, actually, how important it is, because often things are managed service there. But yeah, that's a story for another time, actually. So, what I would like to do is just give you the stage to take us away and let us know more about feed optimization and yeah, why that's important.
Awesome. I'll learn to click. There you go. So we'll talk about shopping feed tips for 2025. So what we'll talk about today and what we'll go through is why an optimized feed matters. We'll do a quick review of pass and fail attributes, and I'll explain what that means. Then we'll go through some of our updated learnings when it comes to some of these attributes that you can actually optimize, because not everything is optimizable. We'll do a custom label deep dive. I think people still don't use it properly. Then we'll do some of my advanced tips. I'll talk about what tools you're supposed to be using, and then at the end we have plenty of time for Q&A. A lot of times when I do sessions like this, there's a couple of people that just stick around, just keep asking question after question after question, and I think it's awesome. So we'll the more questions you have, the better, and we'll take them at the end. So why an optimized feed matters. Oh yeah, we have polls. Okay, so this was my rookie move with polls, but let's start with polls. So how much do you work on improving your feed? If everybody can just jump in, if you click on polls and then jump in, and then if you click on one of the answers, it will populate with the results as well. So if I also do that, I never
Yes,
do
then
it.
you can indeed see it. And luckily, it's a lot on regularly.
Regular, 60% regular, some 20% only when performance issues happen. 15% only when required by platform changes. You guys will love this. 10% don't work on feed optimization. I hope you're in lead gen, because otherwise you are screwed. Okay, looks like more than half, around half, regularly optimizes it. So I think that's going to be great for the rest of the session. And trust me, I will be just as surprised when the next poll comes. So that's going to be a little Easter egg. So when we look at the feed's importance, my opinion on this is that we all have access to the same products. We all have access to the same algorithms. We all run on Performance Max, or we all run smart bidding. We all have access to the same things, and we have access to the same Nike shoes, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, there's D2C brands, and yes, you can sell some different products and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we all have the same products. We all have the same access to algorithms. Where we can differentiate, again, is on CRO, website campaign structure, and stuff like that. But in the terms of this conversation, it's really around feed optimization that we can make a differentiation. So if you're running a PMax campaign and your competitor's running a PMax campaign, your differentiator is your feeds and how well that gets optimized. So that's why it's one of those things that's more important, because I used to be really good at manual bidding. I'm still really good at it. It's just a useless trait today, because nobody really needs it anymore. So that's why, again, if we go in and we say, per se, everybody runs smart bidding, so the level has really increased a lot for people. And that's where going in with an optimized feed is just matters of time. I always say that an optimized feed, it's not going to make the results for you. So if you are destined to, if you have good products at a good price for a good website, then an optimized feed is it's not gonna take you from 0 to 100, but it can stop you from reaching 100 if you have a bad feed. On the other hand, if you're a bad product, bad price, bad website, an optimized feed is not going to do anything for you. So that's where I see a lot of people going and say, well, I optimized the feed and didn't do anything. I'm like, yeah, your prices are 20% too high across the board. But then again, if you only have a title that's really, the title is Venus and you're selling a bed, I've seen that before, there's no keywords in the title whatsoever, that can really break your results from a shopping perspective. And then from a poll, so how do you measure the success of your feed optimizations? This is one of my questions. So I was actually curious how people will measure the success, and I will not say it's a trick question, because it's not a trick question, but I'm very curious to see what people will say is the result, or what they're looking for when you measure the success. It can also be, why are you optimizing it for? Is it to get a better click-through rate? Is it to get a higher conversion rate? Is it to get increased visibility? Is it to get better ROAS? Or are you not really measuring it? So everybody's doing it for 33% for better ROAS. 23%. My answer would be increased impressions and visibility. That's what an improved feed does. An improved feed makes sure that you have the maximum impressions, maximum visibility. An improved feed, a perfect feed, while you can use some of the elements, and I'll go into some of it later today, you can use some of the elements to actually get a better ROAS, but mainly it is to improve impressions and visibility. So that's really where you should be putting most of your focus. So what does an optimized feed actually look like? It's one of those things I always go back and say, when we have these sessions on how to optimize feed, let's take a step back and figure out what it's supposed to look like. You're supposed to have all of what we call pass-fail attributes are added. We're also called hygiene attributes. All the attributes are updated daily at the very least. All attributes are optimized to the best of their ability. And then you add custom labels to give better insights. If we start on the pass and fail, or hygiene attributes, ID, condition, GTIN, brand availability, price, image link, all these things, you need to add them. There's no question around whether or not we should add the price or availability. But then it becomes a kind of a thing, well, should I always add sale price? Should I always get additional image links in there? Should I always have shipping? And honestly, all the things I'm listing on the right there are need to have. To pass, fail, either you have added them or you haven't, and you absolutely 100% should. The more values, the more attributes you add to Google these days, the more it will use it in order to figure out where you're supposed to show Google do a lot with the different attributes these days. With all of a sudden, it will use this attribute to showcase in the ad, in the title, and stuff like that. So the more attributes you actually add, the more you can add, the better visibility you just get. And it's one of those things where if you go in and let's say you only have 10 attributes today and you add all the rest tomorrow, it's not going to have an immediate result. A lot of feed optimization is very gradual. So that's why it's really hard to A/B test adding more image links, or really hard to test what happens if we put in the proper Google product category, etc., because it's over time that it all accumulates. Then we come to the next level in terms of what I call like only use if relevant, all these attributes. And this section is rather short, but if you have the NPN, if you have the color, if you are selling apparel and you have, then you need to add sizes, of course, but material, gender, age group, all of these things, if they're relevant for you, my personal opinion and what we do in Savvy is that it's mandatory. If it's relevant, it's mandatory. There is no such thing as, it would be nice to have. No, every single attribute that you can add, you should add, because you never know what Google is going to use it for. You don't know how Google is going to use it for the algorithms and PMAX and smart bidding, etc. So just add everything. It's not that hard. Most platforms today can do it fairly easily, and I would venture a guess to say that AI will be able to just make all this automated very, very soon. So just get used to doing it. Then we come into the whole section about attributes to optimize, because as we talked about before, you can only put in one size. There isn't like different sizes. And should I put in large or should I put in an L? Like it is in the documentation and in the Notion document that we'll share with you later. There's a link to the what do we call it? The support center, Google support help center, with the explanation of the actual attribute. I've also written a little note about what I mean, or what it means, so we don't have to read through 20 pages of help center notes, so that it should be super easy for you to use. But there are attributes where there's different ways to do titles, there's different ways to do product types, etc., etc. We're not going to touch Google product category today. This is from an old slide, just because who cares? Titles. I have changed my opinion on titles over the years a ton. So we used to do a lot of keyword stuffing. And when I say keyword stuffing, I mean like you just put in a bunch of keywords into the titles to make sure you get shown there. Ever since I did an experiment back in 2014, it's always been the most consistently important things for Google Shopping, visibility, and it still is today. Now, however, it's less necessary. Google uses a lot of different points in order to actually find out where you're getting shown. But sometimes it's more important than not. And that's really one of the things I've changed my mind on this year alone, is because I went into this year and did some tests, and I could see, okay, if we actually remove certain keywords from the headline, we're still getting shown for it. We did a lot of experiments with rotating keywords and titles, and we kind of found that once Google finds out that this product with this search term or keyword, once Google knows there's a high CTR there, it'll continue to show for it, even though the keyword isn't in the title. So we found out we could rotate it. But then over the months, we're like, there's certain times where there's certain types of keywords in the title that you always need to have. So we'll talk a little bit about now. So the stages of title optimization, when I look at it, is if you have a new product or if you're a new store and you have no GTINs, you need to absolutely massively stuff keywords. It's the only way Google will know that it needs to start showing you for a certain keyword is if it's in the title. Yes, they'll to a certain degree also use descriptions, product types, and a couple other elements. But if you don't have a GTIN, you're isolated to your own history on your account. And if you don't have much history, if a product doesn't have much history, just brand, category, model, style, keyword, like a bunch of keywords into the title, massively stuff them. Then if you have GTINs, which means that Google can use the data for if somebody else sells the same Nike shoe that you're selling, then you can tap into their learnings and use that for your own, what keywords should you actually use for? And it says little to no keyword stuffing, just little keyword stuffing. Don't do no keyword stuffing. You should definitely do keyword stuffing, and I'll show you how in a second. But really focus on keywords that are not being shown on in the auction. And then if you have GTINs, if you have a lot of history, that's really where you can do that thing where I talked about it before about rotating keywords. So if you have an influencer that you want to be shown for when somebody search for influencer name plus jewelry or plus shoes or plus apparel or plus supplement, you can start adding their names to the title and just get some impressions for it, get some CTR, get a high CTR once or 2 weeks. Then you can start getting a lot broader exposure when it comes to titles. When I say keyword stuffing, I mean good keyword stuffing, not just stuff keywords for the sake of stuffing them. So add relevant keywords. Obviously, people should be searching for it, and all this should be done dynamically. So, which goes back to the hygiene. If you don't add gender, we can't dynamically add it. If you don't add material, we can't dynamically add it, etc., etc. If we look at the examples on the right, you can see like eBay, 100 t-shirts. People search for 100 t-shirts. Blank, bulk, lot. That people are searching for those things. If you look at Old Navy, again, Old Navy, brand, men's is gender, crew neck is style, t-shirts category, and 3-pack is keyword. Same thing for Ledur out on the right. Again, the more of these types of keywords we can super easily dynamically build across thousands of products if you have it in the feed in the first place. That's why we always go back to, let's make sure we build the feed properly. The only thing I'm saying, just don't repeat keywords. Don't do excessive keyword stuffing. There's still an importance when it comes to getting a CTR and making sure that people can actually read what's in there. Especially the first section can be very, very important for people to read in order to get your high CTR. So just stuffing keywords in from the get-go is a bad idea. And then I still see sizes for apparel. When was the last time anybody searched for a medium t-shirt? So sizes, material, color is like, unless it's relevant, I'll get into that in a second. Unless it's relevant, don't waste your time. Focus on what people are actually searching for. This is really like the main things I've mentioned a little bit before, but brand, gender, color, style, category, and the keywords, that's typically the most important things to get into a title. And then we start going into some of the more niche focuses, because the size, even though I said it's not important, again, if you're saying plus size or triple XL, then it's important. That is what people are searching for. So adding those to your titles, that is important. Again, if you're selling jewelry, silver, gold, sterling, titanium, you don't have aluminum jewelry. But if you don't sell kids, don't have to put in. And I just had a conversation with a large sex toy company before this, so we'll do sex toy examples. Don't have to put in adult sex toys. You are supposed to put in kids' shoes, kids' running shoes. So again, if they're relevant, you can definitely add some of these things. But outside of that, nobody cares about a model number on a pair of pants. Everybody cares about a model number when it comes to a certain piece of hardware. So think through what is relevant, what do people search for in your specific industry. And one of the cool things by using a feed tool that we use a lot is there's no attribute for model number per se. There's no attribute for some of the keywords that are relevant, but you'll have it in your backend. And by adding into your feed, getting into a tool like Channable or another feed optimization tool, you can still use that and not send it over to Google, but use it in the feed optimization tool to actually populate your titles. Just because it's not an attribute in Google's proper taxonomy doesn't mean you can't use it. And then I love rotating keywords. This is one of the things we've done more this year, like I mentioned. But if you're not being shown up for wholesale or influencer names or certain categories, then you can start rotating them in there and say, okay, now I want to be shown for wholesale. Now I want to be shown for bulk. Now I want to be shown for this influencer's name. Now I want to be shown for this feature, etc., etc., etc. So rotating the keywords into your titles can be something that's really, really important. Then we come to product types. They used to only be used for analysis. And I love this example. It was like in Danish, we have this saying that's like, it's a wink with a bat. Doesn't translate well, but it was a really big understanding, because if you're looking at the product types on the left, and this is a typical Shopify product type out on the left. You can't really see, okay, we're spending a lot on treadmills and we're getting a lot of revenue. Barbell sets are also great. Foam rolls are also great. Yeah, awesome. That's really evident. But other than that, what are you actually seeing from here? And what we use prototypes for a lot is analysis. So what we like to do is make sure that all prototypes have a really good categorization. So prototype 1, prototype 2, and basically what we just did here, we went in our own product in our own field optimization. We went in, we just said, okay, if it's a treadmill, it's equipment. If it's multivitamins, it's a supplement, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that allows us to go in and say, once we actually look at this, then we can see that all our spend on supplements is horrible. And this was a like super simple, easy one to do. But again, if you have thousands of products, then having the proper taxonomy in your category, in your product types, allows you to much better break down what are you spending on this, this, and this. And there's no need to use custom labels on this because custom labels can only have one in. In product types, you can have prototype 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can have levels of them, and it's already built into the report editor inside Google Shopping and PMax for that matter. And you don't have to please don't do this in custom labels. It's a waste of time. I'll tell you why in a second as well. But what we then did on top of this is we'll add a medium level too. So instead of only having equipment, we'll have machines, we'll have weights, we'll have recovery. So all our recovery stuff, our foam rolls, our mats and stuff like that, it's inside recovery. We'll have all the vitamins in one subcategory as well. That way we cover two things. One, we get even better insights, and Google is now starting to use product types to match with keywords, which is very, very interesting because they never used to do that. There was a slide like this that came out in the Google Ads Academy. I want to say this year, I want to say end of last year. 2024 went by really quick for me. It got cold really quick. Maybe that's the thing. But Google started using product types, and it was on this slide where you can see the backend impact, relevance for serving, impressions, and click. That didn't used to be there. It used to just be for us. So again, that's why we go back to saying instead of only having these in there as product types, now we actually try to say how can we think keywords in wherever we can. It's not one of those things. It's not gonna make a huge difference in the amount of in your visibility. But it's one of those things when I sit and look at feed optimization, it's like a 2 to 5% impact. Maybe this is a 2% impact, but the more of the 2 to 5% impact actions we can take to optimize a feed, it really stacks up over time. Then it comes to image optimization, and it's one of those things that personally we've done exceedingly little of over the years, just because it was always meant to be, hey, let's A/B test. And how do you A/B test a feed? It's always difficult. But there's things you can do to make images better, and especially as we work more and more with really large DTC companies this year, we've kind of just found out, this is actually something that's important. I don't think anybody can see what the thing is on the left. Yes, it's the necklace, but we can't even read what it is. What is it? Is it just a flat, is it just a flat little silver thing? Customized name pendant, you can't see what type of name pendant it is. Who cares about the string and all these things? These images makes no sense. There's different things we can do. We can zoom in, so you can see the shark. It's been zoomed in. We don't show the entire chain. We can already see it's a chain. So we can already see a zoom in. We know it's a necklace. Crafter uses a model in there, which is super good, especially if you look at your search results and you go in and you just say it's a men's necklace, and everybody's showing the one all the way to the left, and you're the only one who have a model in there. Google has opened up a ton in terms of the different lifestyle images that you can actually use in shopping. So it's a lot more open than it used to be. They tend to say, yes, you need to use a white background, but no, it's just, you don't have to do that anymore. And again, you see the customized name necklace to the right, where you can see it's a name necklace. You can see the lettering versus I can't see whether I like the lettering or not. And the reason why this is important, at least for me, is because one of the really big things that I focus on when we go into Google Shopping and in general just advertising is I don't just want to have people click our ads. I also want to have people not click our ads. So if I don't like the font that Ashley's written in, I shouldn't click it. I don't want people that don't like that font to click on my ad. That's one of the things that makes shopping ads so much more powerful than text ads, is that people can actually see the product, see the price before they click. But when you do something like on the left, you're missing the point. You're getting people who click it, who don't really know what it is, who think they like it, who don't think they like it. So the more you can do with image optimization to make sure that people can see what the product is before they click in, the better. Of course, this is super difficult to do for a very large SKU multi-brand store with thousands of products. But if you are a D2C brand and you have to like 100 products, 200 products, 300 products, maybe top 10, we've had super successful just going and optimizing top 10 in terms of images. And the shark that you see there on the right, that's from Temu. So it is possible to do dynamically to a certain extent. It is definitely something where you might have to go back and figure out what the dreaded developers are doing in order to figure out how to crop the images and stuff like that. But there's ways to get about this. I know Channable also have an image editor. So there's ways to go about this. And it's something that is worthwhile in certain industries. If you have a t-shirt, it's not a big deal. But there are industries where this becomes more important. And again, the whole thing is, can people see what it is that they're clicking on? But that opens up the next poll. So what challenges do you face with feed optimization? Like, is it data accuracy, consistency? Is it managing product variants, like our sizes, colors, etc.? Is it compliance with Google's feed requirements? Is it lack of time or resources to optimize the feed? And I just want everybody to appreciate how fluent that poll read was. I think that I'm getting better and better. I think it was the last one, but so I can't get better than this. So I'm glad to see that this was it. So results: lack of time, resources to optimize the feed, data accuracy and consistency. For the people who write data accuracy, chose data accuracy and consistency, can you put in the chat what you mean? What data accuracy is? You can't get the right data in from your backend. Is like where is it? It's going wrong. Is it whoever is inputting the data into your system in the first place? Because those people are super annoying, and I don't understand why they can't put in the same blue color every single time or write the title the same way every single time. They're just supposed to do this. But from the result part, we're seeing 40% saying it's a time resource issue, which is very interesting. Sounds like Andrew should do a feed optimization service.
I see some answers already coming in, Andrew. Price updating every first hour of every 1 hour. Underlying data errors, inconsistent input into the system in the first place.
Interesting. Inconsistent start level. There are solutions to all this. So if anybody has questions on some of the issues that they have, please put them in the questions tab, and we can look at that. Because there's definitely solutions to that. Oh, getting the cheats in, not being able to get the stuff in the feed is the stuff nightmares made out of. It's just ridiculous. Okay, let's move on. So if you do a little deep dive on custom labels, in my opinion, have two use cases. One is to analyze performance segments of products. So all these sizes, all these products that are available, all these products this much in stock, this is our best sellers, etc. Analyze the performance segments, and then once you have them analyzed, then you can also use it to segment products into different campaigns because it's easier to go into a feed optimization tool and say, okay, I want all my equipment, recovery, and supplements in one campaign, and I want all my apparel and all my shoes in another campaign, and do that in a say, okay, those are my two custom labels. That's how we segment the products out, instead of manually trying to remember to choose what product type should be in what campaign. That leads to human error, and it's been an issue with shopping forever. So those are two main things with custom labels. So my favorite custom labels are these eight. So in-stock percentage across sizes and colors. I love that. We'll go into more detail with that. Performance buckets, also love that. Go more into detail with that. Price levels, or price comparison levels, which is wildly underused. Private label versus reseller, on sale versus regular price, in-category bestsellers, on sale percentage. So I'll explain the first three in detail in 1 second, and then we'll go through the rest afterwards. So the in-stock percentage is one of those, like, it's fairly simple to do, but knowing how many products are left in stock, especially like a left in stock, is super important. Because if there's only one size left, then conversion rates take a dive. It always does. There's caveats to that. There's situations where that doesn't happen, but in general, if you only have one size left, it doesn't convert as well. And the problem with Google is that Google doesn't know, and it's the entire thing with all marketing algorithms per se. They can't predict anything. But we know once small, medium, large are gone, then okay, they account for 80% of the sales, or 90% of the sales in some cases, and then there's no more left. So what we do there is we try to go in and say we calculate how many sizes are in stock, we sign the custom label, we review the performance. Number 3 is the most important part here, in my opinion. I'll get to that in a second. And then we set products out of stock proactively. But the way that works is that you can do it 2 ways. I'll start with showing the way to do it for the most popular sizes, because if you have 7 sizes, and again, it's extra large, extra large, and extra small, there are 3 sizes left. It's not the same as it when small, medium, and large are out of stock. So for a lot of apparel, we find out what are the most important sizes, and then we build this based on that. So we can hit this result in this rule you can see out there. We calculate how many products are left. If a product is in stock, or if a size is in stock, we give it a 1 value, and then we go and just do math. We say we do a sum rule, and then if there's 3 left, when most are in stock. If there's 2 left, then there's only 2 left in stock, and if 1, then there's only 1 left in stock. And then we go in and review the performance. That's where I see most PPC people don't do this. They just guess. Well, if there's only 2 sizes left, it's not important. Go in, always take the step before you start excluding or proactively removing anything from shopping or PMax. Go in and review the performance, because we can see here, okay, if there's most left in stock, we get a 172% conversion rate. If there's 2 left in stock, we get 176 conversion rate. Both are great. Like if there's only medium and large left, it converts just as well as if most of it in stock. And what we see a lot is that when there's only 2 left in stock, that's actually when it converts even better, because that's typically the more popular products that are starting to get out of stock. So that makes sense. But so then the question is, when does it stop performing well? And in this case, it was super clear. Conversion rates drop by around 60-70% once there's only one of small, medium, and large in stock. And then what we just do is we create a rule to exclude it. So as you can see, we went from, it wasn't spending a lot, but it was still, it could spend more. So we just went in and practically just removed it and made sure, okay, we don't have this in our feed anymore. There's different ways to do this. You can also proactively remove anything. You can also proactively take anything away. If you have a lot of sizes, you can do the same thing, but don't worry about figuring out most popular sizes. You can just do it based on all the sizes available. And again, you get the slides. You just take these and create the same rules. Then there's performance buckets. I know everybody most likely already know it, but even if you don't use a tool or anywhere else to actually build campaigns based on it, which is not always what we do, it's not always the best choice. I have another presentation on this. We should get this into the next level Channable sessions, but I have some campaign structure slides and presentations on why it's not always you're supposed to do that. But even when we don't use the performance buckets as campaign segmentation, we still like to have them as custom labels so we can review the performance. Maybe it's a good idea to do in the future, in a year or in 2 years. And then we have a lot of data on it. We can see, now we're overspending on new, or we're overspending on saboteurs. We're not spending enough on bestsellers. It's not always relevant, but it's good things to keep an eye on. Then there's price comparison. You already know, if you know price comparison, okay, this is our price, this is our competitor price. I'm not going to go into how to do that. I'm just going to say, okay, what could we actually learn from based on it? And based on this, you can see, okay, on the right, we're basically overspending on high price ticket items, or high price items that are more expensive than competitors. And we could probably spend more on competitively priced items. So this is something, again, this is what custom labels do. They give you insights, they segment products. That can be really hard to get this kind of segmentation anywhere else. And it's something to be, sometimes you don't use it for anything, and all of a sudden, you're like, now this segment is doing something wrong, and you start working on it. But you don't have that data unless it's in there. So we always use all 5 custom labels, even if we have nothing to use it for yet. Then when it comes to like, Jules, where are we on time actually? Because I forgot to set my timer up. I feel like I spent a lot of time on the polls.
No worries. I can imagine. So we're a bit running out of time. So we usually only have 3 minutes left. But as we already said in the beginning, we rather focus on quality than we rush through everything. So please give us the most valuable stuff still.
Excellent. I only have 5 minutes left, so that's going to be perfect.
Perfect.
So the best thing that I will say here, I love in category bestsellers, because a lot of people will just say bestsellers across the entire store. In my opinion, that's the wrong way to approach it, especially if you have a lot of products. For instance, we had a client come in, they sold couches and then a bunch of accessory stuff. So if you look at their top 20 products, it was 19 couches and then a chair. So their bestseller split was just basically all their couches and then a chair. So it didn't do anything. The campaign split didn't do anything. Instead, what we like to do is go in and say, okay, if we have blenders and we have chargers and we have mini fridges, then we want to take the top 5 or top 3 in each of those. And now my ticker needs to stop ticking. We want to take the top 5 or top 3 or top 1 in each category and say, this is our bestseller. And that is something we can take to actually use into the rest of the campaign structure. So we are showing the top 5, top 3 in every single category, and just instead of just saying across the entire store. That's something that can be really, really powerful. Then some more advanced tips. So unit-based measure is wildly underutilized by everybody. It showcases basically how much does each product item cost. So again, it can be per serving, per pill, per count. It can be item in a bundle. This is a 6-pack from True Classic. It's a perfect example where you're supposed to put in what's the cost per t-shirt, because I'm just seeing a t-shirt, $180. I'm supposed to find the 6-pack in that keyword stuff title. Like, am I supposed to click on this? Because some people do sell random generic looking t-shirts for $180. And so I think it's a great thing to put in the count, the unit-based measure. Super easy to do in most feed tools. So I would just highly recommend people do that. I like limiting product variants, something we've worked a lot on, like especially across rings, bra, like underwear, apparel is something where it can really help you specifically for analyzing, because like you see on the right here, we have the same product shown 4 times. So one will have a high ROAS, one will have a low ROAS. What are you supposed to do that? It's the same product, it's just 4 different sizes. So it can be tough to analyze, and it can be tough for smart bidding to work on. So limiting variants and something saying, oh, we're almost in one variant can be really good. I have also seen it hurt, so just be careful, test it. But it's one of those things, if it can help, especially with jewelry, is something we've done it a lot. Works really, really well, but it can limit your exposure. So if you do it and you see lower exposure, introduce more variants back again. So that's a very important thing, not just to do. And then on the G10 front, just add it. Like, it makes sure that Google knows that you have the same product across competitors. Like you can see on the left here, it's not because Nike, Shop, WSS, and Foot Locker all just have the same amount of reviews. It's because they have the same G10 and they actively share the same reviews on the same product. And you can get access to the same reviews anyways. So G10s are super good. You learn from competitors' Aspen if all of a sudden you're showing for hiking running shoes. Great. Well, then you'll start showing up for that as well if your competitor does. So that's super important. Even for D2C, historic values to a certain extent is saved on G10s, so it's a must-have. We've put in G10s on D2C accounts, and all of a sudden it's all started doing better over time. Yes, we do other things, but we've tried to compare in cases where we weren't able to add G10s, and it just doesn't do as well. So G10s, just add them. Like, they have to be in there. And we'll look to tools to help to do this, because you can do it with so many different ways with feed optimization. You can do it through Google Sheet. You can do it with directly in Merchant Center rules. You can do it directly in your own backend. But the Sheets and Merchant Center rules, if you don't have a lot of products, it's doable, definitely. in your backend, of course, that's the perfect thing because you're sending the perfect results. But again, you're going to be you'll be dependent on a developer. So using a feed optimization tool, for me, it just skips it all. Even if you want your developers in perfect world to do it, you can optimize the feeds how they're supposed to be, give them back to the developer and say, this is how I want it to look. Usually it's much easier to do that. I like, my personal favorite is Channable, not just because I'm on this in this webinar, but the two options that I recommend the most is Data Feed Watch and Channable. Data Feed Watch, I like support there. So if you're an absolute beginner, they can help you out a lot. But the interface absolutely confuses me. As somebody who does this for a living, I'm still confused by the interface. There's a lot of advanced stuff I can't do in Data Feed Watch that are just super simple and Channable. And we've taken a lot of people that we hire in Savvy or that we do in-house coaching with advertisers and said, let's try to move you over to Channable and show it. And every single time, people at first they go, I don't know how this works. Once we show them, once they get used to it a little bit, they're like, how can I do this without master rules? How can I do this without this the preview right after I make a change? So highly recommend using Channable for your feed optimization things. And they don't give me a referral fee because their referral program is the worst in the world. I don't know who thought that up over in Channable. So just so we have a little bit of negative with the positive, we have everything put together here. For the last part here, if you love this, we've created a Notion template where you can see all the different attributes across normal attributes, advanced attributes, and then you can go in and say, okay, how important is this for me? What's the status? Does it exist? Is it optimized? Should I optimize it? It's not applicable to me. And then it will show you exactly what is it, what feed attribute you're supposed to spend your time on. We have the note for how to optimize. Should you just add it, or should you change an image to stand out? Should you use something from the side? If there's something specific like the title, then we have a specific guide to use that. So this is the easiest thing. Even if you don't use mine, just go in and take a spreadsheet and write in every single feed attribute and then write down what's the status of this. Because when you open up a feed and try to optimize it, and it's all just there, it's really confusing to know where to start. But if you can go in, you can just say, this is what I'm supposed to. Now I'm supposed to, okay, we're missing sale price. I need to add it. Okay, we need to optimize the title. Okay, you have 4 things you need to do. Feed optimization is not that complicated once you have a nice list. So grab the Notion template. You'll absolutely love it. And again, main takeaways, add all hygiene attributes, optimize the 4 core attributes, get insights with custom labels, and then go more advanced if necessary. It's really not that hard. In a month, you can have your feed be perfect. You don't have to touch it again until it breaks. So yeah, download the feed. Questions, next, questions. Yeah, I think we're ready for questions.
Nice. Thank you so much, Andrew. I really like the session, and I think this is often undervalued because in the end, this is really the foundation, of course, of your advertising. And especially with next level e-commerce, we also try to focus on the next level things. And then often it's referred to campaign setups and all data that we use. But actually it starts here. And if this is not good, yeah, how good will your results be in the end? And I really like the template as well. And I think that helps a lot of people, not only us internally, actually, but also all the people on the call here. And yeah, thanks so much also for the people staying because we're running a bit over time, but it's all worth it, hopefully. So therefore, we also want to launch a poll also to see a bit on what you thought of the level and if it's good enough, if it's too basic, if it's too advanced, and if you can follow along. So we also have the information to see if it all works. So there it is. And after you have filled that one in, then we will also launch a poll to see what you would like as the next topic, as we also always value your feedback, and you're also the one that decides on what our topic should be. So we also have some options in there. So please let us know. Then I'll just quickly continue because in January, so in the new year, we have actually Mike Rhodes on the stage as well. And I think a lot of people know him because his scripts are being used often. Also, if I'm in touch with different agencies, I'm not sure if you use any scripts of Mike Rhodes, Andrew?
No,
I've
tried it. Love Mike. Spoken to Mike many times before. I just want an answer. How much am I spending on video? How much am I spending on display? And he has like 18 tabs. So I love it. Love what he's doing. He's a really, really smart guy with the scripts. But just give me the video answer. That's really all I'm looking for. So we use a different one.
Okay, cool. Nice, good to
But
hear.
he's super smart. I love it.
Yeah, nice. That's good to hear. So we have him on the call, and we will actually do something different this time. So it's going to be exciting as well, and he will take you fully to it, also on how scripts actually work. So that's for then. I think it's also nice to know for us what your main takeaway of today. So what's something Andrew told you today that's really the thing you would like to take action on, and please share it with us. And if you have the time and if you think it's fun, we would always love to get some engagement actually on LinkedIn as well, and share your insights there, because I think like we are giving the stage, but I think in the end we can all help each other out by putting these kind of best practices into play, and all taking us to the next level here. And with that, we also come to the questions. We have 26 questions, Andrew, so it's quite a lot. And concerning the time, I will just pick the top 3 upvoted ones. And let me see if I can have them here. Yes, on upvotes. So I have one with 19 upvotes, so it should be a good question for you, Andrew. So it's from Eric, and he asks, if feed changes take time to see the impact, how do you recommend measuring optimizations being made? And should we look at month-to-month performance?
So that's yeah, month over month is typically the one to look at. If you already have a pretty good feed, it's going to be really, really hard to notice and to be able to see the changes, see the impact of change. I'll be very, very blunt about that. If you have a really bad feed, that's where you can see month over month, everything just gets better and better and better and better. But yeah, so month over month is the way to primarily look at it. And then you're supposed to do these things. It's the right thing to do, and unless it takes an exceedingly long time to do, then it's that 100% worthwhile, because it's a day or something like that. Then you've optimized most of the things you have to optimize.
Yeah, and I also often get the question actually if it can hurt, but in the end, like the richer your feed gets, it doesn't hurt, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like you need to do a horrible job to make it hurt.
Indeed.
Like, and the only way you can make it hurt is if you take keywords away. If you add more attributes, fill out more attributes, that can never hurt you. If you change attributes like a title, you take keywords away, that can hurt you. So just don't do that, and then you'll be fine.
Nice. I actually have here a question, but it is kind of 2 questions. So I'll first ask you the first question in the upvote, and then the second one. It's both on Massimo. First one there is, in order to understand the quality of the feed, do you recommend to run a standard shopping campaign alongside PMax?
I do recommend it. I don't recommend it to understand the quality of the feed. To understand the quality of the feed, that's an quote unquote objective subjective review of the feed. You can't really tell in the performance of a campaign how well the feed is, because again, you can actually have really good performance with a poor feed. It's not the best performance you can get, and the only way to really look at that is go in and then review it based on basically the Notion template I gave you, and review for those things. That's the way to see how good is my feed. Yeah.
Nice, good one. And the second question of Massimo is actually about, what about social media? How can we measure the impact of the optimization on the product feed there?
So that's a lot harder. The same rules apply, but the different attributes is just so much less important. Like Facebook, especially, and then other social media, they don't use the attributes in order to. Well, not this should show, not this should show. Facebook and Meta, and like Meta across Instagram, Facebook, etc. It's just it really uses like the quote unquote the ad or creative metrics. So like how many click on it, how many linger, how many actually engage with the ad and stuff like that. That's like they just throw all the things in your product catalog in, and it just slowly start showing those things. They use less of the things you use. The biggest thing that we've used when it comes to feed optimization for social media is image editor is super duper important. Editing optimizing the images, using the like frames, organizing them a little bit, stuff like that is super important. So you don't just have that white product image. It's really a bad experience for many. And then custom labels to group and segment has been really, really impactful. And again, we go back to sizes. If there's only medium left, you shouldn't only push that.
It's actually good that you touch on this, because that's also what the last question is about. Because if you use a different item ID for a t-shirt with different sizes, how can you prevent that the same t-shirt is showing multiple times in the Google Shopping results? And the question is there a best practice?
Okay, so if we're gonna assume that the lore he writes a different item group ID, because I assume he says item group ID, which is the ID you usually use to group all products with the same product with different sizes together. First step is to get the same item group ID in there. Like, that's the way for Google to know that this is the same product. Outside of that, like, you don't really have a good option, because if you know how to prevent the same t-shirts, like if you can know in the feed to, like, these 5 shirts are the same, but they all have different product IDs, they also have different item group IDs. If you know that, then the solution is just to set the proper item group ID. That's how Google knows, and they will not populate the same size on the same search in general. They're pretty good at that because it's a bad search experience. So I would do that. If not, then again, if you can't do that, then I would start excluding if it's a thing, if it's a problem. Typically, it's not. I've never seen this be a problem before.
Definitely, yeah. And also, if you don't have any item group IDs, which I sometimes also see coming, then there are also ways to create them, but you need to be a bit creative. But we can't solve that actually today, because if you need any advice on that, either, I'm not sure if you're open for it, Andrew, they can reach out to Savvy Revenue, or we can also help with it if that's necessary.
Everybody's always welcome to send me an email. We're not bigger than if you write Savvy, then you get a hold of me, and I'm curious all the time, so I'll answer most things.
Nice. That's good to hear. Then, one last thank you, Andrew, for all the questions being answered, and the great presentation that you put in, because it's very practical and everyone can use it in a really good way, and especially with also the Notion template. So I think that's a big win for everyone that was here. And besides that, as said, we will also come back to the other questions that are being asked, but we'll follow up with that, I think, next week, and also with the recording, so that everyone has everything. And you can also take your feeds to the next level. And that's where it all starts, because if your feed is not working well, then probably your foundation for your strategy is also not working well. So show us some good quality feeds, and then we and Andrew, of course, will be happy as well. So by this, I will also like to thank you a lot, and we will actually see you in the next year, and then with Mike Rhodes. Sign up for that, because it's going to be amazing. And then I would like to thank you another time, Andrew, and all the people here, and then see you in the next year. Ciao, ciao.
Everybody, thank you.